And I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Well,
Meeting
we've got time.
meeting of the Sheriff's Office Advisory Review Board for Friday, August 9, will come to order. And
Tommy Jewel.
present.
Let me get my little
There you go.
cheat sheet. I have this one. Dan Layden,
Here,
Joseph Lopez,
Present.
Mr. Stewart is out.
And with respect to that, I did get an email from Mr. Stewart saying his schedule got jammed and he didn't know if he was going to make it. So I thanked him for giving us that notice. Oh, here comes Mr. Wismer now. And let me just reflect.
Somehow Jim Stewart's not on this.
Is he not? Yeah, he's on the.
Okay, maybe it just didn't print on mine.
okay.
Hey,
Hey,
Mr. Wismer.
good to see
And let me say that the
It's weird.
Your
parking,
whole-
the parking situation is rather jammed up out there, and so we may have people coming in late. I know I raced Debbie Dodge for parking.
He beat me to it.
In the true spirit of Olympics, I beat you though.
That's right, you won the gold. I
Yeah,
got this
I'm
over
proud of
around
your
the
silver.
corner.
I had to take a scenic route around Albuquerque to find the spot.
Yeah.
It was like,
I just zipped around the corner, I got lucky.
Did you complete the roll call?
Debbie Strong, here.
Here.
Debbie Dodge,
Here,
Michael Wismer,
Here,
and then Elena Giacci.
Okay, and I don't think we've heard from Elena. So she may pop in here, hopefully. But at any rate, I believe that we have a quorum, so rule. While our agenda doesn't indicate, I'll call for additions to the agenda. I know one thing that I want to discuss is the promotion ceremony that the sheriff's office had that caused me to cancel the meeting and discuss with the board whether, I need to call for a vote to,
Yes.
yeah. So are there other additions or deletions or amendments to the agenda?
I don't know if this is an agenda item, but I thought after the news article about the red flag lawsuit, that we could ask the sheriff how he views the red flag laws when we have our next opportunity. We could ask BCSO. Sheriff Gonzalez is being sued for not invoking the red flag law in a case. Now, I know this is the past. He is also associated, frankly, with the constitutional sheriff's movement, which objects to the red flag law. He may have objected, we don't know this, but I wanted to ask our sheriff where he stands on
Okay,
the
so,
red flag law, but I don't know that that's an agenda.
well, we can, if nothing else, add it to the next agenda.
Thank you.
So anything else in terms of our agenda? So we'll have added with your consent, an item for the promotional ceremony and as a result of the cancellation of the meeting, whether or not we need to ratify the decision to cancel.
Just a little microphone light should show
It's,
on the
the
side.
other two are working, so,
And
It's
I think
okay.
we're picking
yeah, it's
up
okay,
on
we
that.
have that one.
Okay.
I don't know why it's off.
So unless there's objection, then with that addition, we'll proceed with the agenda.
could you put mine down there a bit closer to everybody?
in the middle or?
Yeah,
Those two, these two will pick up.
I think that's for his.
that's from my
Is that a
hearing
good
aid.
enough spot?
Yeah, that's good enough. I just want to be able to hear everybody.
Sure. So with respect to the consent agenda, approval of the minutes for the June 14, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second,
Been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes from June 14, 2024 will stand approved. Move to item 4 on the agenda, public comment. Was there anyone signed up to speak, Dinette?
No, there was not.
There do not appear to be names that I don't recognize on the Zoom. I see Mr. Martinez there, our county attorney. Even though we're ably represented by Daniel there, it's always a pleasure to have our county attorney. Thank you, Ken, for being here. So I assume there's no public comment. Sheriff's office doesn't appear to be represented here. Did we have any?
No, they're out of town, remember, he's told us for the promotional, he would be out of town.
Okay,
For his, our
so
next
we weren't
meeting.
expecting the sheriff to be here anyway. So we'll have no comment from the sheriff's office. So we'll move to item 6, old business update on SOARB South Valley listening session, locations, community outreach. That was in the committee of Giacci and Stewart, neither of whom are here. Does anybody have any information on that? I think at the June meeting, we reported on the brief listening session that we had. So unless there's,
The zero, yeah, zero attendance.
unless there's something else on that, we'll then move on. And in new business, 7A is a discussion on the 2024 annual report. Vice Chair Strongin, would you please walk us through that discussion?
Sure. I mean, I put this together not knowing, how long any of us, other than Jim Stewart, would still be on this board after
Thank you.
October.
We're having a little difficulty hearing, Debbie. Let's see if we can get
Let me
that
see.
volume up.
Daniel's a pro at this thing.
Yeah, the volume's way up there.
But the room still doesn't work most of the time. Let's try now.
Oh, much
There
better.
you go, yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
much.
Okay. So I did this because I really wasn't sure, how many of us would still be on this board after October other than Jim Stewart. So I wanted to get this started earlier rather than later. The email that Danette sent out today was it from Julianne Baca?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess indicates that that anyone who wants to be reappointed won't know about it until, I guess, the earliest would be November. So the terms will expire before we finish this report. But
So you'll get a notification in September asking if you want to remain, but then you won't be reappointed until your term expires at the end of October. So November is when you get reappointed, because they can't reappoint you until it
I
expires.
received a message about reappointment.
yeah, so
you
did I.
receive Messages?
Mhm.
Did everybody else receive messages?
No.
I
did.
received in July.
Can you
Ah.
share the content of that with us?
It said, you needed to let them know if you want to be reappointed.
Who was
And
it
who's
from?
It was, I don't recall.
It was something from the county, and you basically had to fill out another, a whole
Application.
application form again.
Okay, I'll
And
search my email, see if I
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe I.
blew by it. Yeah.
Okay.
or it
I
could be
will
in
forward
spam.
the Message to the board.
Okay,
but she said she would reach out again in September if she hasn't heard from people. And then if she couldn't get a hold of any of you guys, she would have me contact you guys. So
It's from the
but
county.
for coordination purposes, those among us who is interested in reappointment,
I am.
Dr. Layden,
I
Good for you.
submitted an application.
okay.
I am. I submitted.
Debbie
an
Strongman, are you
application.
indicating you are as
I-
well?
I filled out the form figuring that at least I would be able to, assist in the completion of the annual report as a
Uh-huh.
member of the board. And then, after that, we'll see. But it's purely for the continuity of that. I think Jim is already on it, and who else, is anyone else saying they will?
I reapplied.
See Diane.
I did, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
I'm
I'm-
still undecided. I haven't seen any, request for information or
I
decision.
will look for it when I get home and forward it to you.
Okay,
And I don't know why and I think I'll send copies to everybody.
I think it's possible that it's based on when you were appointed. So I think Michael, like I was appointed in the first round and maybe.
Well, so was I though, and I haven't gotten anything.
Right.
So was
They-
Tommy,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tommy, they didn't either.
yeah.
Three of
I mean.
But I
maybe
may have
check
missed it in my
spam.
email.
just in case it's not well coordinated. I understand the vice chair is saying, you know, she's willing to stay on for transition purposes. Certainly, I'd be willing to do that, but I don't think I have interest in remaining another term. And so, you know, I think we owe the citizens some kind of
Continuity.
orderly transfer.
That's one reason I'm
and,
willing.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. But, you know, certainly
Well,
I
and-
would yield to another appointment if that's made.
I mean,
You know,
look,
what I
Joseph stayed on here forever and they haven't reappointed
Right.
anybody for him.
Well, what I was thinking was that if you only assist in the transition, but you're not a member of the board, then you can't vote on what's in the report. So if there are people who are, you know, if there's a lack of continuity, so that most of the people voting on the report could theoretically have not been in office, you know, for more than a month or so at the point where they're voting. So I thought it might be a good idea to have some of the current board members able to vote, you know, again, for the sake of continuity. But
Yeah,
that's,
I'm just looking at the ordinance too. I don't know that it's required, it probably is though, that there be a report.
Here comes Elena.
Oh, okay. That there be a report, after the first, or at the first meeting of the,
it's
commission.
not at the first meeting, no, but it does say in January of each year.
okay.
So,
There says the report has to be submitted in January.
Or
When,
by-
by January, when the first meeting is for the commission to look at it, they'll put that on their agenda. So if you submit it in January, so far they've been good to present it in January, but they could present it in February, like, you know, push it down on the agenda.
Sure.
Right.
You have to submit it by.
So I guess what I'm wondering, hi Elena, how are you?
Good.
Good. So the record reflects that you're here. We haven't greeted you. I guess what I'm wondering is if we should just style this a transition report or interim report, and push it out rather than, you know, trying to coordinate for a report in January. Something else could certainly come in January, if not the same report, but something as simple as a new compilation of who's on the board at that time could suffice as a report. And we could kind of set the stage as you appear to in draft by submitting this as our terms end.
right. So
Well,
I don't know if anybody has had a chance to look this over or has any comments. I mean, I put this together very quickly. It's pretty bare bones. I don't know if, you know, there are any subcommittees, like last year we had the behavioral health subcommittee did a special section on the report, in the report. I don't know if anybody wanted to do anything like that again.
Well, it strikes me, Dr. Layton just made a point that we might want to cover by way of the report regarding red flag. Also, I think someone sent out I believe it was Stebbins briefed us on the sheriff actually turning over investigation of this accident
To
to
someone else, yeah.
APD.
APD,
Yeah.
which is in line with previous advice that this board has given.
Exactly.
And indicates a shift in policy that I assume would think is a good shift.
I don't know if it's a shift in policy or just a one-time thing, but we could ask
Well,
it.
it's not just a one-time thing, because I found another case that was last year actually, but we didn't know about it at the time. That was, I think it was in November of 2023. There was a shooting, a BCSO shooting resulting in death. And again, BCSO specifically asked APD to handle that investigation. So what I'd like to do is send an email to Sheriff Allen and ask if there are any similar, similar referrals of BCSO involved shootings, or in, I guess the case that went around recently, it was not a shooting, but a car crash
Right.
that resulted in death. And because I think that is significant, that was, I believe, in our very first annual report, a recommendation that that BCSO not handle investigations of itself. So I think it would be important to include that in the annual report.
Okay. So
all right,
I think I was just kind of speaking by way of example, but I want, for one, don't have any objection if you communicate with the sheriff about that, vice chair, that would be fine.
Okay.
But I think it makes my point. Maybe there are things that we want to make note of by way of report without waiting for a new board to be there and not having recollection of those things.
Yeah,
that
maybe
might be
we,
important.
like, we do a final report as this board.
Right, in
Yeah.
transition. So I'm not sure how we handle that. If this is the August meeting, we're talking in terms of the ability to do that while we're still in our terms, most of us, September and October.
Right.
Exactly.
So do you have a suggestion, Debbie, about how we should proceed with that?
Well, what we've done in the past, and maybe we should do again, is to have a special meeting that's just to discuss the annual report, where we're not taking votes, but we're having general discussion and people expressing their opinions and editorial, edits and so on. We could certainly do that, because if we wait until, we could wait until next month and then have an editorial special meeting in sometime in late September or early October before our final meeting of the majority of this board for their current terms. If that works for other people.
Well, there are 4 of us, I think, that were appointed at the same time.
Right.
So that would be almost a majority of the board that could be gone
By the end of October.
by the end of
I'm
It's
going
more
to-
than that. It's every one of
And I
the
am too, I think.
Yeah.
I
I
think we
was
have.
appointed to fill a term, and the term ends in October.
You and
Right.
Jim are 2022, so you still have.
Oh,
I
okay.
started in June.
If
You're filling a term, yeah.
I may, so I'm looking at the county ordinances. Unless the specific creation of the board has term limits, which this does not, the general term limits of members are to coincide with the county commissioner that appointed the individual. Even then, an incoming county commissioner may choose to replace that member with 90 days notice. So unless that occurs, it just rolls over.
Even if
But
you're
I
at
thought we
large,
had 4-year terms. I thought it's,
So,
I'm-
order, hold on, wait.
well, some of us were at large though, and
Yeah,
And-
I am
and-
too.
and-
The at-large ones, may expire, but even then, the way this is written, the way the ordinance is written, so there may be some confusion, I think, with the letters you received. I'm actually reading Bernalillo County Ordinance 2433 when there's a,
And most of us haven't received letters.
yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna forward the letter too that I got. You can please advise us.
But
I think
your-
I'll write something for the board.
But yeah, and your sense is, though, Daniel, that we remain until replaced,
You remain until.
unless we resign.
Yes, you would have to resign and it rolls over and there's an opportunity to be replaced with a new commissioner for the seat that was appointed to you and you get 90 days notice if that occurs.
Okay, my commissioner was Charlene Piscotti and she wasn't reelected. So now it's Erica Levis.
He would have to want to do it. A lot of the times they don't,
They just,
they let it go.
I think that's why Julie wasn't
Well,
too worried about like their terms expiring, saying they'll get something in November saying.
Yes, I very rarely
Yeah,
have seen
congratulations, you're
a
still on
member of a
board.
board be, actually, I don't think I have ever seen a member of a board be replaced by a county commissioner without that member first resigning.
So then we'll need to send a letter in or something?
For resignation or?
If you don't
Yeah.
want to be,
You have to give written notice, yes.
yes,
Yeah,
you do have to give written notice to me or to your commissioner, just saying
Okay.
we no longer.
Notwithstanding the expiration of the term, we need to give notice if we know.
Exactly.
Yes,
Do not want to remain.
yes, and I'll
Okay,
give the
so-
board members a quick little brief analysis of the ordinance. That way it'll kind of
Yeah.
alleviate the concerns everyone has.
So we
Yeah.
need to respond regardless, one way or the other.
Yes,
you know, it's weird.
Yeah, but she did say
Wait,
about
I-
anybody that wanted to leave, to let her know right away. So that way she knows, Julianne. So they already anticipate that.
Go ahead, Debbie Strong.
I thought we were appointed for 4-year terms.
Yeah.
And
We
so our
were,
terms
but Daniel's going to research this and send us
So we're
something.
stuck here.
But his
Some of-
brief interpretation is that we remain unless we resign or are replaced by our sitting commissioner. So that would alleviate the need to rush a special meeting
Okay.
for this. We could,
Okay, but if you choose to reapply, you need to fill out a new application,
apparently that's what was
which is
submitted.
what I did.
I don't know that that's the case. And Daniel, can you all?
I mean, yeah, if we're getting a letter.
I will,
Do something.
I can send something out, yes, and give you guys a quick, a short analysis by the end of the day, if that's okay?
Oh, by the end of the day?
Yeah.
That quick?
I'm hoping my afternoon is quiet after this meeting. so-
You just jinxed yourself.
I know, you know. That's the first one.
You just opened that
made
gate.
your peace.
May I ask, Elena, are you planning to reapply?
Well, see,
And-
her
and you-
term's not up.
You don't have to feel put on the carpet. I
Okay.
think Michael Wismer says, well, I haven't decided.
He
And
hasn't
that's
decided.
fine.
I have reapplied,
But she was appointed in 2022
but her term expires in,
for
no,
4 years.
But
No,
before we
it-
get into armchair analysis, let's let Daniel
Daniel
look
figure
at
it out.
that. And nobody has to feel like they're put on the carpet about whether they're gonna remain.
Yeah,
I have affirmatively stated that I am not
Right.
remaining.
I'm not remaining.
I said, hey, I will be helpful as is necessary with respect to transition. It would be nice to get some of these issues and or developments out in some kind of report. And I think Vice Chair Strongin is at least interested in making sure that happens. So
Yeah.
you don't have to give a declaration. You don't have to worry, boy, they're gonna sweep us, and take the broom and sweep us all out in October. Unless Daniel, by the end of today, gets us an email that says, hey,
Or a
you
broom.
guys better do something, or a broom. So let me suggest this. Why don't we just table this discussion? And I know that kind of leaves us all dangling a little bit, but I have a little confidence in what Daniel's saying, that nothing's gonna happen, of an earth-shattering nature
Right.
without us making major decisions until he gives us some firm advice on this.
and if I may make one comment, some of us were appointed to unexpired terms. That's the issue here.
Mm.
Okay, 4 were appointed to 4-year terms and served 4 years, but 3 of us were appointed to unexpired terms and served less than that. I've served 3, Joseph served a couple, Elaine. We are the 3 who were appointed to
So
unexpired.
notwithstanding that, Dr. Layton, if I'm understanding Daniel, your commissioner, it's not even the one that appointed you, with 90 days notice could say you're gone. It doesn't matter.
Yes,
And on the other side of that, unless something affirmative happens, i.e. you say,
You just
I want to
won't go.
resign, or that 90-day notice deal occurs, you're here.
We're already at 90 days, August, September, October. The 90 days was in late July.
Understand what I'm saying about the 90 days now. Daniel says, if your commissioner wants you gone, then you're not at large, right?
No.
No,
on
okay.
District 5.
So if your commissioner says, gee, you know, I've got somebody I want in that spot, they just give you 90 days notice. Now, they could say, well, her term expires in October. They could say any number of things, but he's thinking you are due 90 days notice.
Regardless of when my term is.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
if your commissioner wants to replace you,
Okay.
And that is true for the at-large, those of us that are at-large as
Well,
well.
we don't know about at-large, do we?
if
It's the same.
if the commissioner wants to remove you,
What
if the
commission?
commission, actually, the
Commission.
commission,
The whole
if the commission,
commission,
you do
yeah.
receive 90 days notice.
Okay,
So I was Friday.
Thank you.
And I'd like
But
to
we don't
assure
need
you,
to give them 90 days notice.
you do not.
No, you just have to give notice.
You do, yeah.
You just have to give notice.
and so let me say this, we don't want to overcomplicate this.
Right.
I mean, it's a friendly deal, nobody's getting a paycheck. And so, I think expressing that we intend to cooperate, I think this is a vital board. I think the county commission wants to maintain this board, whether we are on it or not, whether there's a sheriff friendly or not. And so I think it will continue to exist. And we, as, pardon the pun, stewards of it, want to make sure that it continues to exist. So, I think I can say we will cooperate as needed in making sure that happens. And with that, Madam Vice Chair, would you mind if we tabled the discussion until we have more solid information?
No, I don't mind at all. I'm just curious because the ordinance specifically says that board members' terms will be for 4 years. So,
She's correct.
Then that's a conflict.
There is a conflict. She is correct. It says that, but it doesn't say what happens when the term ends or how to continue. So then I defaulted to section 2,
The regular policy.
the regular policy for all boards, and that one says that you continue until you resign and so
Or you get
forth.
notification.
And you're right,
Okay.
there's nothing to tell you what to do after the 4 years. Like, there should be some language, and I think that's something we need to work in the county part,
Yeah.
not for you all to
Okay.
do.
Somewhere else.
What are we gonna do after 4 years,
I know. And
Okay.
it's like, by the way.
well, we can make
signed up-
recommendations to the county commission, so that could be one of them, that they
Okay,
revise that language. All right, I'm
Mhm.
fine with that, and then we can just bring this up again at next month's meeting, and in the meantime, I can revise this very preliminary draft just to reflect whatever we have discussed today.
okay. So since that's at my suggestion, let me is anybody uncomfortable?
Mike, go ahead and say that.
It's not that I'm uncomfortable, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to have the following conversation. This board was set up in response to the previous sheriff. I think we all agree to that. A number of us are all appointed at the same time. I wonder if we should have the conversation, maybe this agenda or the next one, about whether or not we want validation from the commission as to whether to continue or not. Because if you look at what we've tried to do this year in outreach, and we haven't had a whole lot of public input, and maybe what we need is validation that the county commission really wants this board to continue, whether we're in it or not. And if they do, is there consideration to reevaluate how they have appointed members so that there is a staggered sense of not 4 people leaving at one time, or evaluate the number of people that are appointed? I would like to have that conversation, because I'm just uneasy that we're,
Superfluous?
yeah.
Okay.
That's now. There will be other sheriffs. There's a
Mhm.
whole history.
And I think that's a part of the conversation he's wishing to have.
Okay,
And
let's have the
as-
conversation.
As we,
The value of the board.
draw the uneasy parallel with police oversight commission.
Mhm.
which we are not,
We are not.
right? But, you know, philosophically, there probably does need to be something there that people can say, oh, man, you know, I've got a gripe. I don't feel comfortable taking this directly. So, I mean, we need to have that whole discussion. And it might be nice if not a commissioner, maybe Julianne Baca giving some validation to, yeah, you know, but there's not a sense in the commission that there certainly hasn't been any action to try to repeal the ordinance that
Right.
created this that I'm aware of.
And
And-
quite the opposite, because when we've given the reports, they've been very
Well received.
well received and very complimentary to what this group is doing.
And I'll echo what you said. They've been very complimentary of
Mhm.
this board and what you are all are doing.
Mhm.
Vice Chair Strong.
And just to continue, I would suggest that we all take a step back and think about this for the next meeting, because I don't think we're going to be under a rush to publish a report, and we can put it on as a topic and have a good discussion that weighs both pros and cons, and then be able to say, we believe this board has value. Please continue, consider readjusting this and staggering the appointments, or we don't think it has value. That's the
very well could be a
conversation.
part of the report. Vice Chair Strong.
I just wondered, you know, when in drafting this, I couldn't think of any public comments that we received this year. And I'm just wondering if anybody else remembers any.
Well, we did have a few people that appeared here that made comments either for or wanting to see something approved, especially after the,
I think I went on TV and on the radio.
yes.
mhm.
And
And
took-
when we had the absence of, or firing, or whatever you want to call it, of the one deputy, there was a number of comments that came through for that as well.
Was that this year or
That
last?
was
year?
Last year.
So that was
That was all last.
from last year for that report? Okay.
And it seems to me, and I know in a couple of minutes, the issue about the sheriff having contact with the citizen at the store, we kind of tabled or,
We're waiting
That
for
was
what
last
the
year
result
also.
was, that the one that where he took them down,
right.
and there was a discussion on how he took them down and whether that was an illegal
Yeah, and I
takedown.
don't, was that last year too?
That was
That
last.
was last year.
That was all last. year.
Well, it was last year, but we never got a report on that particular
Right, and
incident,
we-
so it carried over into
And it
this
wasn't
year.
appropriate, the sheriff surmised, for him to comment on that.
Mhm.
But now we have a situation where there's some independence in looking at police shootings and others like this accident. And one is cause to at least ponder, well, is there somebody that ought to be looking at the sheriff's conduct independently? So anyway,
And if we're that group or not.
yeah, and so Debbie, I don't know that we can pinpoint anything in by way of public comment this year without going back into the past year, but there are
Mhm.
certainly some things that we could note, whether this year or last.
Well, and just what Debbie had said earlier when we were talking about that the sheriff did turn over the investigation to another group. And she said, well, that was this one. Is that now a policy or a protocol
what
that
we're gonna find
yeah,
out,
I
yeah.
think that would be
Yeah, she's gonna communicate, if I understand, with the sheriff
to find out if that's a policy protocol or something that happens on an
I believe,
incident needed.
I can mention that they were working on an interagency document for investigations, because I
Oh,
came by my
good.
desk.
So they were reworking it because they had one and we in
Right.
fact had a copy of it and it called for the agency for whom the deputy was employed to be the lead agency.
Yes, they were working on a document. I don't know the specifics of it. I remember it coming in front of me, and it involved state police, it involved APD, BCSO, maybe a few, maybe even Sandoval County, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All
What
right.
about EIA or?
All right, so I
Yeah.
can, when I'll
Mhm.
email the sheriff and ask
I don't know. I don't think they're.
questions about that, and I'll send a copy of that correspondence, you know, to Danette to send to the whole board, just so everybody knows that we're following up on that. And maybe the sheriff will choose to respond at our next meeting, or maybe, in some other way.
So Debbie, one of the things that we are supposed to adhere to is this annual report. And then it comes out in a certain place before, like, is it January or February of the following year?
January.
Yeah,
Supposed to
so
be
then any of these issues that we want to resolve, we want to try to have them all resolved by October so that the report can be prepared, the draft can be looked at and then turned over. Is that correct?
That's
Pretty
what we,
much. Yeah.
yeah, that's what we've tabled,
Okay.
because it may not be necessary to rush
Right.
and complete the report by October. If it seems to me a quorum, 5 of us are willing to stay on and say, this is the report of the board. It can happen in January, it can happen before that, but it would still be the report of the SOARB
Yeah.
if there are enough members who
To do it.
felt comfortable voting on it. Yeah.
So are you the only one that has said, I don't want to be part of this, the future board?
Debbie also.
I think Joseph Lopez also.
Oh, so,
And I'm undecided.
And Tim
And Jim
staying on.
Stewart will continue, and I will reapply. I have replied.
Okay.
okay.
All right. So we've
So
beat-
I just wanted to raise one other thing, in talking about whether the county commission wants this board to continue. I would observe that we've only had 8 people on this board since,
they-
I think it was last October. And they have not moved to appoint someone to fill that place. So I don't know if that's an indication of the commission's feelings, or they've just been, busy with other things, but I was
Well,
surprised by that.
Mr. Wisdom.
Well, I would say that I recently read, as a parallel to this board, I recently read about Murillo County Commission establishing a behavioral health board. And they needed quite a number of people and public safety representatives. And this seems to be the shift right now is towards a lot of emphasis on making a really outstanding behavioral health commitment to the community. And it seems like there's been a paradigm shift away from focusing on the actions of the sheriff towards, hey, maybe growth of behavioral health initiatives will help solve some of our crime problems. And so that's why I think we should have that discussion the next time about.
And of course, Michael, we made that point
Yes.
when the sheriff created a behavioral health unit. And we said, aha, county commission, great development. You need to pour more resources into that.
And they are,
Uh-huh.
from what I
So,
read.
I mean, yeah, that,
And I think it's a discussion because I'm not sure that just because one exists, the other one doesn't.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I know that the sheriff is also looking to hire to for someone to do sort of Diane Dosal's job, but along with someone, that person now also will need to have had clinical experience, and I think, a social work degree of some sort. And so I think that department also is being strengthened at the sheriff's office. So I don't think that's going away. I think that is definitely continuing. And the salary that was listed for that position, which is a civilian position, was substantial. I mean, it went up to, I don't know, 125,000, 150,000, something, depending on the person's credentials. So just FYI.
okay. Well, I mean, those are good developments. Those are good points. All in line with a discussion, as Mr. Wismer has suggested, to determine, where the commission is with respect to the continuity of the board. its viability in as much as we've had an opening for quite some amount of time. And Joseph, and I certainly don't want to speak for him. He can change, he can state his mind and change his mind. But he's held on some amount of time, having announced that he didn't really have interest in remaining. So I think that begs for some kind of discussion. I think I called Danette yesterday and said, look, do I need to meet with the commission chair? What's Julianne Baca doing about?
Well, she's resigning, right?
There's
that?
two, Julie.
Yeah.
County manager resigned, but Julianne Baca is the chief
Okay,
of operations.
okay.
So we have a new county
Two
manager.
different.
Same
Yeah.
names,
Yeah,
different
okay.
people.
Okay, I was like,
So we have a new county manager, but Julianne Baca
okay.
remains the person that this board is kind of under. Is that fair? Danette?
No,
We-
the
we-
board's under the commission, she just coordinates.
She coordinates every board for the counties.
Okay.
We have currently an interim county manager,
Uh-huh.
Shirley Reagan. And I think the board voted to select a new county manager, and that contract is still being negotiated.
Okay. So is Julianne Baca then the appropriate person to contact with respect to
Yes,
having a
That's
discussion
why I
about where we're
emailed.
going?
Yeah.
She's the expert on board.
she's the expert on
Oh,
the
yeah.
board. She's been doing it for a very
years.
long time, even before she was chief of operations. She
Mhm.
was commission coordinator or something like that. I don't know.
She's really good at this.
Yeah.
As far as the ordinances as relates to boards, if I have a question, I double check with her.
Yeah.
Okay. And understand, I think the kind of conversation that Mr. Wismer's looking at, and indeed, as well as our vice chair, is substantive, not just procedural, not just, okay, well, when a term's up, does that mean everybody? I think we want to know, look, you've said in meetings that were important and viable, and that you appreciate the work of the board. There's an opening that remains
Two.
to,
Is it just two?
David left and Joseph resigned, but he's just hanging on for us.
Just hanging on.
I mean, he left, he said he wanted to be off the board, but he would come till they got him a new replacement, so that's two people.
do you know?
Well, and actually, I just want to say, I would encourage Joseph to reconsider leaving the board, just because I
Yeah.
think it's very valuable to have on the board people with law enforcement and investigative experience. And you are one of the few people on this board that has that. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a number of frames of reference that you're important to, Joseph. And so I'm not going to even say that you attempted to resign. You can withdraw that, retract it, do as you please. But one frame of reference is just institutional memory. And if we go through wholesale, reconstitution of a board, it's awfully difficult. Why did they meet once a month? Everything seems to suffer unless there's some amount of continuity. So, yeah, I encourage people to stay on and hope it hasn't been a burden for folks. But again, Danette and Daniel, I don't know if this is a discussion we need to have directly with some commissioners, and I know there are limitations in terms of unless we're on the commission agenda. And typically that's only if we're giving our annual report, or if it's just a conversation with Julianne, or
Well,
both.
I think we can find out what Danielle finds out on whether or not it's even an issue. And then if it is, and when we have to do something, then maybe that's when we have the discussion and say, okay, so what is it that we need to do?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Who is?
Any other actions need to be taken as a result of that? All right.
I think so.
So-
I have no idea.
At the beginning, I added that's all under new business, incidentally,
We could go back though, because since she's here about
about
the
the
South Valley meeting.
any development on
Yeah,
that.
well, yes and no. we're finding it pretty hard to try to get something on a Saturday in the morning. So now what we're doing, and because we were really concentrating on libraries, and the reason we originally did that was because some of the open spaces that we wanted to charge a fee. And so, but the multi-purpose center actually is the one where the sheriff and Sam both had their meeting and it was full at that time. And what Linda was suggesting is she believes that she can get all of the community groups to send a representative if we decide to do something at that multi-purpose center, and perhaps in October. But I didn't want to say absolutely yes until I said it's okay, just because it's a shift from doing it from a library. And so if we can get, if there is a fee, if we can get that waived, then perhaps we could do it at the community center. And she certainly believes she can, because I don't think we had a lot of advertisement for this last one, because it was something that, the commissioner wanted to have pretty quickly and had already scheduled. So I would like to maybe make the recommendation that we give, Senator Lopez the permission to try to get the multi-purpose center in the South Valley for our next piece. Now, whether or not we want to make it a meeting/community event, or if we want to make it just a community event. And if we could do that, I would just like permission to switch the venue from library to community center.
And I don't know that we had ever really specified library.
That's right.
It came to us.
Well, we
Yeah.
had that last one because we could, in fact,
could
I think Debbie Strongin is the one that got the library at the suggestion, I think, of Commissioner
Commissioner.
Baca. But I don't recall that we ever said, okay, well, it has to be in a library. So I don't know that you need the permission of the board
Okay,
to look at that as a subcommittee.
all right,
Now, the timing of all of this,
October.
of course, here we are talking about, okay, well, will we cease to exist after October? So we may not want to say, okay, yeah, let's try to book something in October until we know. the
Get an
direction.
answer from,
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm answering two questions. Well, I'm answering the question on terms,
right,
and then you wanted to get an answer on whether you exist?
No.
no.
Okay, yeah, that's
Not
not.
another
for me.
question from
Okay,
you,
okay.
but
The
we need to
chicken or
know
the egg?
Okay,
you know,
just the terms,
if
okay.
the term is up October 31, and we're sitting in front of a community group saying, we feel your pain.
And we'll
We'll
look
see,
into it.
we'll see. That's,
We have 2 weeks to finish
so
it.
that's not a question for you.
Okay, thank
That's a
you.
question of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will.
I don't see any of you guys actually doing that.
Yeah, I know.
No, but I mean, here we're committing and then oh yeah, but I'm not on this board anymore.
That's interesting. Had Joseph's picture.
Joseph must have.
So anyway,
Here for a moment.
you all have received that report from Elena on the community listening session. There are several questions, I guess, in that. Do we have a meeting / community or listening session? Do we just have a listening session? Is it okay, outside of a library setting? It seems to me the committee can certainly grapple with those questions and bring a recommendation back. Again, I think that the timing, if we're passing that on to the next board, then unfortunately, it probably needs to be delayed.
Even
not-
further, but yeah. So then would we be looking for, just so I know in what kind of way that we do it, we wait for Daniel's recommendation about the turnover, not turnover, and he said by the end of today. That's pretty quick.
I say that partly because I'm pretty confident of the answer I'm
Yeah.
giving here today. I just want to double check with the language and speak with Julianne.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And then if that says we're still holding on, right now, besides yourself, I have, and Joseph, I haven't heard anybody said absolutely, I'm not gonna be here. So then I think, oh, and Debbie,
There's
I
three.
know.
But it seems to me, given Mr. Wisdom's question,
Mhm.
I mean, if in fact there was some kind of public forum, that's another place to get some answers to some of
Mhm.
those questions. I mean, the commission may not see value and the community may. We need something like that. We need,
Yeah,
so.
so maybe
anyway,
that is a good time
Yeah.
to do it. Okay.
And it's a good time for us to say, man, we have not had the kind of input that we expected to have. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Miss VPs.
Oh, yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I just think if we've delayed long enough on this. I think and I don't think that we need to wait in order to plan something. I think what we should maybe look at is planning something for September so that we have for sure one more meeting after that in October of all of the current board. And that way, whatever comments might be made by members of the community in a meeting, like end of September, we would still have the authority to convey that to the sheriff's office because we would still be in office for, till the end of October. And I don't see why we need to wait for anything to do that because, it's just gotten to the point where we tried to have one meeting. It was not particularly successful or successful at all. And so if we want to do this, we know we're going to be available as a board, then I think it should be September rather than October if that's feasible time-wise.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem with that, Debbie. I think it does get to be a heavy lift from the standpoint of publicity. And I don't think we want to be sitting in a room by ourselves again. So, I mean, if Senator Lowe, if it's too quick for her to pull something together and we can't pull something together ourselves, I say take the time and.
Make sure it's
Yeah,
covered for, yeah.
Yeah, but right now we're just, middle of August, so there's 6 weeks really, if we're talking end of September, which,
That's fine with
but
me. Is that
anyway,
feasible?
I'm just putting that idea out
It
there
was
that,
originally we were shooting for middle of September
Mhm.
so that it would be near or close to our board meeting,
Mhm.
our advisory meeting. But I can certainly see if we can, if we're not having it attached or near the time that we're normally meeting, then I think it opens it up.
And I think, Elena, if you would communicate to Senator Lopez that we appreciate her efforts to help us find the right venue.
Absolutely.
Okay, point made. Anything else on that?
No.
All right, so kind of finally, of course, we, at my direction, canceled the last meeting so that several of us were able to attend promotional ceremony for the sheriff's office. I believe there were 4 or 5 promotions.
Yeah, it was nice. It
was
is
a
always
nice
nice.
ceremony.
Yeah.
And I wanted to yield to others to give, there were 5, give their impressions. You don't really get the sense of that institution with that kind of experience. You had people who had been in the sheriff's office for as many as 20 years and some newer than that. But it was, it came with quite the ceremony and exposure to their family members. And so I really enjoyed it and thought it was a worthwhile experience. They were very kind to us. I even had a name tag. I think they put some
Yeah,
chairs
that
aside.
Danette did that.
I did it. Actually, Desiree did it.
Oh, did she?
I
Okay.
sent the names in and I had a time so she knew who to make tags for.
Yeah. And Danette was there to escort us to our chairs, so we weren't going,
Yeah.
where do we stand? So
Because
it was very
they
nicely
were up front,
organized. Yeah.
so.
So thank you for doing
Yeah,
that because it was
thank you.
nice that it made it easier to participate. So thank you for that, Danette.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I wasn't at that particular ceremony, but I've been to those
Mhm.
ceremonies with people that are.
We can
getting-
do something in September. I hope Linda Lopez can get us something in September.
Okay, I know we were shooting for middle. I just texted her and said, can we do it at the end? So,
So situations, now I'm back to us having canceled the meeting like that come up. And initially I said, well, I don't have a chance really to poll the board. I think in answer to an email from Dr. Layton, I said, why don't you go and represent us? And as she does, she graciously said, sure, I'll do that. And then I think I heard from others, including Danette, and I think even Daniel said, oh yeah, well, if you're gonna cancel the meeting, this is what you need to do. There needs to be whatever it was, 48 hours notice or.
You could cancel up until right before the meeting. You just have to send something out saying that it's been canceled.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's,
So I wound up taking the chair's prerogative. I'm not.
boy, did you. Because I do think that it'd be nice to had been polled, but I completely agreed with the reasoning. So, and I think that comes, and I think that's a perfect example of I trust you, the group trusts you.
Yes.
So if you said, this is my recommendation, we would follow it. I think it's a lot different if we change the entire board and then all of a sudden someone else is at the head of it. To say, yeah, I trust, if you say that's the way we should do it, I follow it.
Yeah, the chair has the
Yeah,
authority to cancel. The other thing that we struggled, because when he said, well, we'll send Dr. Layton, and then I'm like, are we gonna have a quorum? Because if we're not gonna have a quorum, you might as well
Yeah.
cancel the meeting if
Right,
you're allowing. So then that was when he came up with the decision, yeah, let's.
yes, and they do have the authority to call an emergency meeting if
Mhm.
one is necessary as well. One of the things that I don't think this board has taken, I don't know if it's taken advantage of is the right way to say it, but most boards mirror what the county commission does. And the county commission doesn't have meetings in July because of children and vacations and families. So most other boards also mirror that and don't meet in July.
Mhm.
And so when that occurred last month, you just mirrored what all
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
county
nice.
was doing.
So you were
And
doing-
understand, we don't have to have monthly meetings, guys, by this ordinance.
Correct.
Quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly. But I mean, that's what we had opted to do, just like
Mhm.
now next on our agenda is announcement of the next meeting. So we will now vote on, when to have our next meeting.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's not gonna be quarterly.
Right.
We're gonna need to have a meeting, certainly,
September.
September, definitely October. But anyway, with respect to that, I wanted to air that I had used the prerogative of the chair and cancel that meeting. And
That's
if
fine with
anybody
that.
needed
Well, I think this fact that you mirrored the county commission proves that it was a wise and prudent decision.
Wow, look at you.
Exactly what he was doing.
You knew what you were doing. Way to go.
All right, so I don't
Make
think.
sure that gets in the minutes.
The chair knows exactly what
What
he's
he's
doing at all
doing.
times.
If not asked, then.
Even when he stumbles into it, he still knows what he's doing.
Sure. So, any suggestions on the next, meeting
Meeting?
date?
We're looking at September 13th is the second Friday of the month,
13th?
Friday the 13th. So unless you all
Wow.
superstitions about it,
Yeah,
I know some people probably do. Just putting it out there.
20th? It's my daughter's birthday. That shouldn't stop us.
I'm fine with the 13th.
I'm fine with the 13th.
13th is all right?
The 13th is
No
all.
superstitious folks here? Okay.
Oh, no,
Just don't have.
2
Larry.
car accidents, a broken leg and a broken arm,
On the
all on the 13th.
Oh, no, we're not.
But is it
No, no.
Really?
like any 13th or Friday the 13th?
No, I'm good with the 13th. I really am.
All right. Friday the 13th going once?
Your vice
I
chair.
may or may not be able to make it on the 13th. I'll be traveling in northern Canada, so I would certainly make every effort to call in, but I don't know if, I don't know what the Wi-Fi situation will be.
Dr. Lake?
So,
We may need to have another meeting after October to finalize whatever we do with our annual report.
mhm.
Okay with me. If Debbie can't make it, that's okay with me.
Mhm.
Traveling, we may not finish the annual report in October. That's okay. We'll meet again if we need to.
Okay,
That's how I feel.
Okay, that's fine
He
then.
has travel plans.
Okay.
all right, September the
Do you need
13th.
somebody to carry your luggage in northern Canada? There for-
Anybody that speaks Northern Canadian?
Yeah, really.
Hey, hey,
Would you like us to move the board meeting to northern Canada?
where?
Travel.
We could all meet in St. John's, Newfoundland, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm good.
Submit your per diem request.
To Daniel.
Okay. So,
Okay.
September 13 will be the meeting, anticipating that, we will probably still be meeting October, November, and until we get a report out.
And we've agreed that we'll talk about what Michael wants to.
Yeah, so we're gonna check one with Julianne Baca. And after that check with Julianne Baca, I guess we need some communication into the commission. You know, that
Mhm.
And then the red.
we'd like
flag
some
issue.
feedback on the substance of that. And then we're also anticipating some community.
Mhm.
Value of the board and red flag.
Yeah, that's what I
With
have.
the sheriff.
Red
The
flag,
red flag law.
value of the
Like
board.
I just want to observe, I'm not sure what we want to ask the sheriff about the red flag laws. It just that what his view is of that law, because I doubt that he would be able to comment on the investigation or the lawsuit
Right,
involving.
that's not his, yeah. Can she ask that question about his position on the enforcement of the red flag law, which is an issue in the lawsuit against Sheriff Gonzalez in
Yeah, I don't know.
Bernalillo County?
There is a lawsuit, so he's gonna,
Same.
pursuant
Yeah.
to us saying we can't comment on pending litigation. I do
Right.
know he has a policy or a way of handling it. I know he does file them. So I know that.
So then maybe it's just reaffirming a red flag policy that he already is in existence.
Let's clarify.
Either a policy or a team, because I know he's
Okay.
filed them
Yeah.
this year. and
So
his
get
team
this
doing
out.
it.
Daniel, could I ask, could we get a copy of that red flag law in anticipation of any discussion that we're gonna have, so we know the particulars?
Yes, I'll send a copy of
I'm
their,
sure from a jurist perspective, judges have a certain perspective about what's enforceable and what's not with respect to taking somebody's gun away. I would like to see what the law says.
I would think most judges come to that with an empty slate or try to,
Mhm.
you know, and so I don't know, that any particular jurist is gonna have a position on that and would stand to be educated by the bar or the litigants. So anyway, if you want the question asked, the question could be submitted, but
Mhm.
do not expect an answer from the sheriff.
Well, we could
And
just ask what,
experientially, what Daniel is saying is, well, they've definitely filed in this sheriff's administration, some red flag cases, so.
okay.
So we
Instead of
know-
asking their position, ask him, do they have a red law?
What
Well,
the
we have a
protocol
law,
is.
does,
No,
will he enforce it is the question.
I'd like to see it.
I will forward the acronym is IRFA. We just had a meeting with the courts about it, and so I'll forward that to everyone.
Thank you.
Can you send us the statute?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what I'll
that's what
send
I'm
you.
talking about.
Thank you.
So that's two separate deals now, the statute and what the sheriff is doing. And so Daniel, what's the best way for us to find out what the sheriff is doing? Shall we ask the question or?
I think you can ask him, you can email him. We are developing a system. It's hard for me to just nail it. It's his position, right? So, but I know we are working. He's asked us to do something, so, but we're still kind of in flux.
Okay. So Vice Chair, do you feel comfortable submitting that question in your communication?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay,
I just wanted to mention that I know when Sheriff Allen was running for office, he was asked if he believed in the constitutional sheriff's movement that was mentioned before, and he
Mhm.
was not familiar with it particularly, and he certainly has indicated that he doesn't think he has the right to override the courts or override, a decision of the New Mexico Supreme Court, unlike the prior sheriff. So I am fairly confident that that Sheriff Allen would be very vocal if he were not going to enforce a law, such as earlier this year when the governor passed legislation about, I can't even remember the details of it, but it was having to do with guns in parks or something. And it was,
Health,
it was so clearly unconstitutional that, I mean, even I couldn't see how that could be upheld, and it was not upheld. And the sheriff had said he was not going to uphold that law. So I think if he were not going to uphold the red flag law, we would have, he would have made a statement about that as well, and he is not. So, but I will ask the question.
Please, I think it's appropriate, given the lawsuit that
If he
was
was
just
not, I
filed.
wouldn't want him to make any statement. We certainly don't want to signal to anybody that they, don't have to worry about,
The red flag
Yeah.
law, right.
right. So anyway, you, to the extent that you can, please ask about red flag law.
Okay.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I make
So
the motion,
moved.
a second or third.
Unless there's opposition, then we'll stand adjourned to meet again in September. Thank you.
On the 13th
Thank you so
of a
much.
Friday.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
You too.
You too.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
My car.